Hello and welcome back to blackgirlcouch Reviews. I'm your host Christina. We are back for another episode of Severance. This is episode 7, Defiant Jazz. Written by Helen Lee. Directed by Ben Stiller. I'm tired of giving this show 10 out of 10s. But it's what it deserves. Another fantastic episode with one of my favorite dance scenes that I've seen in a very, very long time. I think iconic up there with the John Travolta Uma Thurman dance from Pulp Fiction. It was very reminiscent of that, but 10 times much more sinister and enjoyable for me. And that alone was worthy of giving this episode all of the cred. But then it followed up with some more outstanding things unfolding, including some mysteries and a plan. And I'm all for it. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, Stitcher, iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, Amazon, go down to the rating section, drop me some stars, leave a review. My social media will be there as well. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to send feedback for Severance or any other show that I do, blackgirlcouch@gmail.com. So we start exactly where we picked off. And I actually wrote notes for this episode because I was multitasking. So I needed to orient myself into the episode. And there were a lot of things I just needed to type down. Yes, I was watching it while I was working. Did not take away from the experience whatsoever. So we'll just be going in chronological order for the most part. We pick up with Mark meeting, how do you say her name? Rahabi? I'm just going to call her the regulator. That's her new name. She tells Mark to follow her. And she goes and strategically places herself behind him. So that she is blindsided from anyone coming up behind her, which should have prepared me for the type of character I was about to meet, but it did not. It did not. She was dropping bars because he's like, who are you? What do you know about it? She says, I'm the one that put that shit in your head, and I'm still the only person that can deactivate it.
Explain to me. Explain to me!
She starts to talk to him how she always despised any versus outie, like this wasn't a person, someone that you created, someone who has agency, and starts to drag him about his life choices. Even though she created the tech, but maybe she created it and it was not supposed to be utilized in this capacity. Lord knows that was the whole arc of, what was that I watched? Oh, Altered Carbon. She says you wouldn't know if your innie was unhappy, and you'll never know. You think that this person is someone different than you? They're not. You brought him into this world without his permission based on your own desire for emotional convenience.
God damn!
Shots fired!
Cause he just got knocked down! I ain't even lying, yo, he just got knocked down!
It took him a whole 30 seconds to pick his ego off the floor. He tried to assimilate a response, and all he could say was, I'm not a bad person. No, but you did a bad thing without even considering the consequences because you were in an emotionally traumatized state. Personally, I would not. Living is enjoying even the worst of it. It highlights how much 8 hours of your life is so damn important, and we spend it serving others. But that's why that's why they say pick what you love or do what you love. But with the 8 hours that were required of sleep in a 24-hour day cycle, well, shit, I'm not great at math, but there's only an additional 8 hours in relaxation. And we all know that some of us require 10 hours of sleep. And if you have children, there's no fucking thing such as relaxation.
Mom! Mom! Mommy! Mommy! Mama! Mama! Mama!
What?
Hi.
It's a third of your day, man. A third of your life every day. Except on weekends if you're lucky. Or sporadically if you're not so lucky to have the weekends off. Mark's reaction to watching my new favorite character bludgeon Doug to death and then forced into moving the body was a response.
Fucking what the fucking fuck? Who the fuck? Fuck this fucking. How did you do fucking fucks? Fuck!
Doug had creeped on in and said, Mark, Scout, do I know you? We work together. What are you doing here? Someone here with you? No. She took that bat and ended his existence very quickly. She told him when he said, I'm going to be sick. I'm going to be sick. No, no, no. Your DNA is in that. She gives him Grainer's key card because that can access anything. Take it to him. He will know what to do. She also knows that Mark is a good person and wants to help, which is why he didn't throw Petey's phone away. He's starting to wonder what his Innie's life is like, and he's starting to think about those consequences he never considered. 2 years now after the death of his wife, and 2 years since he has signed up for Severance. We found out it was fairly quickly after she was deceased. Milchick is covering his own fuck-ups, having not told Harmony about Dylan's theft or the emergency OT contingency being activated in his home, and really blamed the child for violating our agreement to count to 1,000. He was dead serious about that line. I love how the humor comes out, and it's very, it's my kind of humor. It's very dry. He tells Dylan when he comes in, because he's the first to greet him, he also checked that damn door 50 million times to make sure that the key card worked and that it opened and shut it properly. I know shut it is not a word, but it came out anyway. He tells him, look, you need to keep mum, because Harmony is and doesn't need to know about this, because I'm trying to do you a solid. He shows off the stricter confines to their work environment. They're basically locked in a room to do only what they're meant to do, which makes one feel even more inhuman. It would make the best of us want to rebel. OTC is a need-to-know basis, meaning he wasn't supposed to do it, which is something Dylan picks up on quickly. He wants to know more about his son. However, he tells him it's better that you don't know anything about his son. And all he said was, what's his name? But he knows he ain't supposed to tell him, and he ain't supposed to know. So he tries to close the can of worms by promising him something special, some additional perks. He has certainly taken a lot of action to try to course correct, using whatever is necessary based on whomever. It seems the break room is no longer something that people fear. It's almost to be tolerated, like a necessary punishment, which also terrifies me because we already know Harmony said I can make things much, much worse. And I think just locking them in the office is the beginning of things, but also should have been a little bit of a precursor to maybe stop and think about what we're doing and make pretty less impulsive decisions. But I feel if these are like children, then of course, like she said, you're a baby in comparison, because she made the regulator, that is, she made a comment to Mark that, 2 years, that's just a baby. Which takes me back to something, side note, sidebar. They mentioned that Mrs. Casey was part-time. And I remember thinking I should have mentioned that last episode, but it definitely popped back up this episode. And I was like, are they stealing consciousness and using it as slaves, like consciousnesses? I know that's not also a word, but I don't know how to say consci. I don't think that's a word either. Then we have all of the Lumen shit. I forgot to mention that too. This is definitely a cult. I had this batshit crazy idea that they're preparing for some type of uprising, the way they're like teaching people how to fight with these cards. They have people doing separate tasks that never can talk to each other. I don't know what they're planning, but I feel like it's something that has been planned and institutionalized for a very long time. We know that Lumen Industries, or the idealism, goes back to the 1800s, not just based on that very old-timey photo that Harmony keeps on her desk and as a shrine in her home. But we see, and we have seen, other Lumen products that seem to come from a much larger franchise that's been established for quite a time. So maybe some founding fathers type of shit. That's my very random theory. Back on topic, Mark gets home and he does as he's told. He gets rid of all of his clothes. The camera angle of him walking out and that dizzying effect, like, holy shit, I just watched someone get their head bashed in that I supposedly know, and now I'm dragging their body out. She tells him, I will take care of this situation. You need to get back and go to work. He will know what to do. Go now. Mark is super inclined to be controlled by powerful women. He gets home and he is busted by Alexa, who asks if he's okay. He says he's fine. He's in his underclothes, but she knows because she's been up for an hour, because I'm in a different home than my own. I'm the exact same way. If I ever stay over someone's house, I'm always up super early because I can't comfortably sleep in unless I like really know you. But he continues to lie, even though she heard the car, knows that he went out. He says this is a lot. I think he was honest in that, but she says, do you want me to go? And he says, maybe. So she leaves. He goes to work. He puts in the trash. Mrs. Selvig is there saying, you take your trash out at 6 p.m., bitch. I wanted to get shit done. It's snowing. Please stop talking to me about my life. And then she offers for them to have a drink later. And he says, well, we'll see how my day goes. He then gets to work and he finds out about the new security measures, being greeted by Milchek with that smile, that very creepy smile. Like, how can he be so evil? And but he also seems as if he genuinely wants to try to make their pitiful existence as happy as he can when he can. And he's more inclined, like, he's a glorified babysitter. He doesn't really want to be a babysitter, but that's his job. That's security. He tells Mark when he's like, oh, you're trapping us in here? I prefer safely situated. He's also in the room to get him his morning coffee because he doesn't even want him to go to the break room. He wants him to skip all the nonsense and the morning chatter. Get back on track for the quota. And here's your morning brew, straight from the hills of Rwanda.
Excuse me? What the air?
I know that Mark is the supervisor, but I would think at this point, Hallie, you would realize he has just as much power as you do. He may get a little bit more, but it's barely enough to be significant. So you being all inquisitive after he gets in, like, what's all this? Girl, this is why me and you still tussle, because after all that you've seen, I need you to be a little bit more smarter when people have you at their mercy. Just wait until the man gets out of the fucking room at least. The abuse that Harmony did to that fake baby is an actual crime. And I never, ever, ever want to see Patricia Arquette showing how to breastfeed. Even with her shirt on, she managed to make it seem deadly. And the way she tossed that baby, I could not stop laughing. Then Devon, after feeling a bond with the woman who taught her how to breastfeed or latch on, which I feel like some other cards would have, some Google searches would have helped you out with that. She then asks her if Mark talks about seeing his dead wife, and we know why she asked that question. And then I started getting excited when she asked that question, because then that went back to my last week's theory, which I had no idea would be confirmed quite as quickly, and kinda was only about 78% sure on. But the fact that they kept focusing on it made me feel as if I should pay attention to, and that's the only thing that I could think it would be. So it makes sense that next episode, of course, after dropping all of those heavy, actually it makes a whole bunch of sense, clues, putting in people's head to start thinking that way, that they automatically go, yep. If you weren't, you're surprised. If you were, you don't have to watch them drag it out. And that's smart writing. So Devon just wants to talk about the woman that ignored her and the senator situation, but she kind of drops it. Milchek then comes in because Helly has accomplished 73%, which is enough for an MDE party, which is a music dance party, for 5 minutes. And him in that white turtleneck dancing around each character, his facial expressions, everything about that scene was golden. This was not the day to fuck with Dylan, though. He is only continuing to build up resentment about the fact that Milchek did something to him that they were never aware of. He feels now personally betrayed by the company as well as by Milchek, who's telling him to keep it under wraps. He knows he's obviously trying to bribe him, and he's being tormented by the fact that he's seeing this little boy. And I was in my home, and now I can't unsee that. I can't want to connect with that. He says, it's not your son. He's like, fuck that, it is my son. So he goes all Tyson.
Oh, I ain't got no fat motherfucker. West side, bad boy killers. You know who the realest is, niggas. We bring it to.
I love the very innocuous response to him bleeding. You broke the skin. And then you have Irving going, he's gonna need a whole tetanus panel. He tells him, Dylan, that's enough. I'm telling Miss Corbel. Oh yeah, why don't we tell her together?
Answer me that with your dumb ass. Don't be quiet now.
As Dylan said, I'm smart. Why do you think I get all the perks? MDE is now canceled forever. Why is no one watching them, though it's one room? They all go in another room to talk shit. But if it's only Milchek that watches everyone, that explains it. Because that's what I started to write in my notes. Like, how are they not being monitored? Oh, if it's one person monitoring several departments, that's also just like corporate to be that fucking cheap. And you know it's the same thing. We have a whole campus where I work. There's 2 fucking security guards that patrol the whole fucking campus. They give them a little golf cart to roll around in. But the fact that you need a golf cart means that something can happen on one side and it's going to take you some time to get to the other side. Versus, I don't know, logistically hiring more fucking people versus the idea that if people see cameras, then they won't rob you. It's that same idea of someone is watching, you're protected. That's why people would love ADT signs in front of their home without getting the actual alarm system, because that's enough of a deterrent. So this felt very apropos. Once they are in the supply closet, he does tell them all about the fact that they have this protocol. He tells them about his experience. He's thoroughly on board of finding some type of way for them to get more information about who they are on the outside. They then realize, because they're like, how are we going to get out of the door? Mark says, I have how did they know it was his? It could have been Milchick but I guess Milchick has Doug's key card, so he can get them out. So their idea is to go to the security room. Dylan is gonna stay because he'll distract Milchick. But as soon as they get out of the room, Irving goes to check on Bert because he's very concerned because he knows he was sent or probably sent to the break room for punishment. Bert was already approached by Milchick and he said he had a surprise for him. He says, I hope it's not the break room. He looks at his work, says it's beautiful. He's had a long time to be here. And we find out after he rose up on a melon party that they are announcing Bert's retirement. And I was like, wait, but you can't reintegrate. So what the fuck does that even mean? Bert has been with them for 7 years. I will say, how was they able to, they didn't even try to explain. Milchick didn't even ask for explanation of how Bert got out. But the first thing I said was, Bert, you really kind of put everyone at risk being so love struck. Because Bert can take care of himself. And you really could have given them away about the fact that they could get out of that room. That going away video from the Audi, Bert was hilarious because he's like, I don't know, this is weird. You know, I don't even know y'all. I don't know what your faces look like. I don't know if you're happy. I feel fulfilled when you come home, but I actually don't. So it's his Audi that's saying goodbye. Irving finally loses his shit. He said, you smug motherfucker. The way he said motherfucker. He goes off on Milchick, tells him, how are you going to applaud this man going to die? Bert's like, no. He's like, no, you're not severed. You get to keep your fucking memories. You get to go home. You don't have to deal with the life that we do. And it's not fucking fair. And you don't have the right to be my jailer. And I'm supposed to be happy about it. Milchick is like,
what the heck is going on around here?
We saw in the scene too that Lumen brands everything, including records. The song is Do You Remember Yesterday? Oh, the irony. I love that song playing while Irving is walking back, being led back to his cage. Hit me all in the feels. Because you could feel the absolute understanding, the disillusionment falling around him of who and what he is. And the loss that he's soon to feel as he has to just shake Bert's hand like he's just a coworker when he isn't. He's that much more to him. There's a brief scene where Harmony meets with, I am going to talk about the other two. Not much to say. They get to the security office. They realize that it's not as they imagine. There's not a lot of people. They are able to rip out the page in regards to the overtime protocol. And they see Harmony coming up the elevator. Milchick has been trying to reach her all day. He also made a comment that we all need something to relax us. And you had Helly saying, what's bothering you? But he doesn't respond. The board says that they will meet with Harmony with her proof when they tell her that Doug Rayner is dead. And she says it's probably the same person that reintegrated Petey. They try to deny this once again, and she gets all up in the woman's ear, telling the board that she will share what she has if you talk to me in person and not dictating to me through an intermediary. To which the board says that is something they want as well and will meet in a few weeks' time at a gala. The thing of it is, Harmony, if these people are willing to do what they are willing to do, don't you think you should be a little bit more cautious considering all the fuck ups that's going on around you? But maybe I'm just the only person that's thinking to CYA. Then we have Bert coming back like, let's burn this motherfucker to the ground. After Dylan, Mark, and Helly have already discussed the plan to go ahead and have them three wake up in the real world in their Audie's body while he stays behind, because it's only fair as he's already seen what's outside. Aww. Alexa comes to visit a drunken Mark, and this is how we end the episode, who pretends to be over his wife and into her, but she already knows differently and tells him he isn't ready, you're a mess. He thinks it's because he talked about his wife. She's like, no, that's healthy. And I think that he really wanted to try. I think this was the closest he probably ever got to actually taking a step away from the grief. But unfortunately, due to everything that's happening, the murder, the whole Severance thing, that he can't even give himself over to that. And it may be intentionally because they worked at the college. He said he used to work at that college. Did she work with him at the college? Did they pick him for a particular reason? Did they orchestrate the wife's death? I don't know. Is she even dead though? I don't know how you would do Severance on a mind that's not alive. Or is she in like a vegetative state? Because I don't think they've discussed how she died. I don't think we know that. So he scares her off. I think he was honest. Like, this is a big step, me sleeping with someone else. But this is the second time he's acted aggressively to her. He ripped up his wife's photo, which is definitely a red flag. That he puts together later. Puts back together, and it's Miss Casey, and that's when the whole can of worms open, because now I'm like, what does part-time mean? Does she only have limited brain capacity, or is she just alive somewhere? Is she in on this whole thing? I don't know. Why would you put your husband through that grief? It feels like a lot in the conspiracy, and I'm now wondering, I'm truly wondering, where this is gonna go, because I have honestly no fucking idea. So if you have theories or you want to discuss the episode, blackgirlcouch@gmail.com, or you can leave a comment below on this podcast. My social media will be there as well. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Until the next time, peace, hair grease, black girl magic.